Do you have your YouTube channel up?
Do I have it up?
Yeah, or you'll want to mute it, but just.
Oh, okay. Yeah, let me do that. Oh yeah, there we are.
Okay, hey, it worked. Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
It actually worked. Okay, so I'm just going to share this to a couple other places here. So do you want to go ahead and just say hi? Well, it's your own channel. You're on your own channel too, so.
Hey. Yes, Dave here, and of course I'm part of the Save America Vote Tulsi Gabbard channel. It's my channel. Like I like to tell people, it's your channel. It's everybody's. And devoted mostly to talking about Tulsi Gabbard or things related to her campaign for the presidency. And my other half here today is Kelley Lane, who is an activist who, you know what, I've already forgotten the names of those.
It's okay. So yeah, I'm just going to finish. Actually, let me toss this off to Brian, if you're listening. Can you share this to the CFAR page? And for some reason, I cannot share it to Facebook. Is as we know, cracking down on things.
Are they blocking?
Well, I would used to be able to share directly to a group that I'm in also, but I guess we'll need to post the YouTube link. How about the YouTube link, Brian, if you're listening, the YouTube link to Dave's channel into the Truth Bomb activist group. And I've posted quite a number of your videos in there, and people seem to like them. So
yeah,
I think it's really cool. So I don't know how I came across your channel, or maybe I saw you on Twitter first. But I thought, oh my God, this guy's saying what I've been trying to say for, a year and a half. So basically, I'm an independent journalist. I do have a degree in communications. I had a couple of articles published on lead paint, things like that. And then I got very involved. I was a Bernie supporter. And when that didn't happen, I became involved with the Draft Bernie group, which then became Movement for People's Party. But for 2018, I just didn't see that they were going to be on the ballot as a third party. And so I got involved with these two candidate contracts. So one is Contract for American Renewal, which is CFAR, and you can find that on Facebook. And the other one is Candidates with a Contract. Real exciting name here. But CWAC, and CWAC is an anti-corruption contract. And I think it has more broad appeal because of that. It's about getting money out of politics. And so, yeah. So that's what I've done. And I also got very heavily involved with an organization called Audit USA about fighting for election integrity. And if anybody's familiar with Tim Canova's campaign, and he ran against Debbie Wasserman Schultz, and that election was really close in 2016. And then again in 2018. And the thing is, we'll never really know what the real results are because the machines, it's all behind closed doors. And if they don't save ballot images, which also could be altered, we have no idea what really happened. So anyway, that's kind of my spiel. And also politically, I just like to explain it this way. I consider myself a progressive, I guess, but I'm very strongly independent. And I come from, on one side of my family, Republicans, and I've actually never voted Republican, and the other side, Canadians who like their socialized medicine. So my votes are as follows. Ralph Nader, Kerry.
Yep.
Oh, and the Kerry one, I say I just wasn't paying attention. Obama, and then Jill Stein.
Wow.
So that's where I stand.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I guess I could reiterate the my voting past. Obviously, most recently, which gets me into a lot of trouble, is that I did vote for Donald Trump in the last election, more or less because I couldn't take Hillary and I didn't know that much about Jill Stein. And toward the end, though, I remember watching Jill Stein because she was getting a little bit of airtime on TV. And I remember some of her views. I was saying, this woman she's making a lot of sense to me. But of course, you fall into that, well, she could never win. And, you know, Trump's got all this momentum, and I'm thinking maybe he will go in there and get us out of all these regime change wars and do what he says as far as bringing manufacturing jobs back. I know, look, nobody was voting for Trump because you're a morally upright person. Mm-hmm. In fact, I had to get over that. Most of the people I knew, and what's interesting now is a lot of those people are still in this denial about like Trump's character and his overall persona, which, you know, he's just this bombastic, you know, and more than that, it's hard to even explain it. But I get quite a bit of this, well, I can't associate with you. You just went too far, you're over the edge. And, you know, I kind of am a center-right guy for a lot of my views. And I said that at the very beginning of the channel. I think I've moved left. In my Twitter profile, I say I'm kind of drifting left on a lot of issues. If you know who Lee Stranahan is, I think I'm a lot like Lee in the sense where my political journey is. Right. I did vote for Barack Obama in 2008.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, fault lines.
More or less based on, you know, hope and change again, and thinking that this was going to really shake up the process. I did vote for Mitt Romney in 2012. I'm from Massachusetts originally, and I lived there, and I didn't have any problems with Mitt up there. I think he ran as a different guy for president.
Well, he had such a great health care plan, Romney Care, which, right? Which became...
Yeah, I have to take a drink because I'm still under the weather here. So
no, that's
throw
fine.
it over to you for a second.
I'll take a drink, and I'll just say I'm also a very, very strong WikiLeaks and Assange supporter. Yes,
very good.
So, we did a panel not too long ago with our candidates who range from, we do have a lot of Democrats, or have had, and independents and Greens. And I'm most excited to talk to the independents and Greens. You know, nothing against the small grassroots candidates trying to run as Dem, but we just see over and over again, they're up against the DCCC. They're going to get the same pattern over and over again. They're going to be ignored. And if they become enough of a threat, then they're going to be smeared. And if they become a real threat, I mean, from everything that looks, you know, we have no real proof, but I've talked to a statistician that really studied what happened in Tim Canova's race in 2016. And, I mean, with the ballot destruction and everything, and it was so close. I mean, we can't prove it, but I mean, the guess is that he won in 2016. 2018 is a little less clear, but anyway. Wow. So yeah, we have those candidates that are just very independent-minded, and no matter what party, what label they were running under, they were very independent thinkers, and really all kind of for the same things. And it was really interesting over the year that we talked to all these candidates, great people really wanting to change things. And it is very much Tulsi's platform, really, that they're all repeating. And they were all brave enough to come on and speak out in defense of Assange and journalism and against, you know, the media smears. So, yeah.
Very good. You know, what's interesting about the Assange thing is that the run-up to the election in 2016, Donald Trump was running on WikiLeaks. He was talking WikiLeaks all the time. And then I lost it a few weeks ago when he basically said, WikiLeaks? What's WikiLeaks? I'm not into WikiLeaks. And I was like, oh my gosh. And
wow. See, I don't pay attention to what he says, really, so I don't.
Well, good for you. That's probably the right thing to do.
But I also don't hold it against, you know, this whole narrative, like you've said, that all people that voted for Trump. I mean, I have family that voted for Trump, and, you know, I know people that voted for Trump. This notion that they're all sexist, racist, you know, whatever, you know, surely there is that segment that voted for him, but there are a whole bunch of people that were just, it was an anti-establishment vote. So
it was. I heard one commentator say, I think it might have been Kim Iverson, is that it was like throwing a Molotov cocktail into the political establishment at that time. And knowing what I know now, obviously, I could have never imagined that Donald Trump would surround himself with all of these neocons. It's incredible the people that have taken over his presidency, and that's the way I look at it. I think his son-in-law is running the show to some degree, and I think guys like Bolton, Pompeo, I think Mike Pence, is running the show. Mike Pence, people don't understand. They always talk about Mike Pence as the evangelical and he's super religious and anti-gay and so forth. But what I worry most about Pence is that he's got the same propensities as like a George W. Bush. He wants to go in to these conflicts whenever one arises, and he's cheerleading along with like Marco Rubio for the Venezuela thing. Just insane. What's happening as far as foreign policy right now. This is one of the reasons why I started the channel. Right. Because I heard Tulsi Gabbard speak, and I was like, now, first of all, number one about Tulsi is she connects on a human level, which there are just few people that I meet that connect like that, never mind a politician.
Right.
She's not insulting to any position. If you have a position, she's going to talk to you regardless, and she's going to try to persuade you, as far as where she stands. But she's not one of these people who, there's a certain group on both sides that just hurl. It's all about tribalism. It's all about hurling insults, and this group of people that are just hell bent on getting Trump out based on a fake narrative. Right. I mean, imagine if they had done a real narrative, like, I don't know, maybe a year after he got in. First of all, we had recounts, and we had recounts of the recounts. Then we had electors. Do you remember the electors? They're all going to change their electoral votes. Never had, I think, one elector in Maine or something changed their votes.
Right.
Okay, and then they went through that entire process. Then they had the inauguration, and then it just one thing after another, and it's just building sympathy for him within his with his group. If you can't talk to anybody, see, I got out, but I still see the same stuff, like, well, Trump's playing 3D chess, and he's got a plan, and and all this stuff about QAnon and you're sitting there going, okay, well, what's the plan? He doesn't have a plan. This has been going on forever. Meanwhile, we still have the same. Some rich people are getting richer. Wall Street is doing great. People can find jobs. Some people are finding 2 or 3 jobs to work. The middle class is still faltering. You've got, I don't know if you've heard this, but people are underwater big time on car loans. This came out a couple of months ago. Everybody ignored the story. To me, they said, well, this is like a car loan bubble eventually, because people are buying cars and they don't have credit.
I hadn't heard that one.
Yep. You can go Google that one, because that was a story that surprised me. And then, of course, the market is up and down. You've got all of this sort of stress with all of the tariffs and the threats going around in China today. And I don't know. Tulsi Gabbard said sometimes a trade war can turn into a hot war. I don't know if that's true, but it's an interesting thing. And I think maybe, Americans don't have the kind of attention span that's required for the type of stuff that I talk about on my channel. I realize that, and it's I hate to say it like this, but it's geeks like you and me, Kelley, that we're involved and we're caring about Julian Assange, and we care about who cares about what's going on at the Venezuelan embassy today? Does anybody care? Well, they turn the electricity off, right? They have no power, they have no AC, they have nothing.
Right.
Who cares,
I think there are more people awake, and it's encouraging. But I realize myself sometimes, I live in my own bubble here, doing all this work online and talking to people, candidates all over the country, and then I go out in the neoliberal bubble of Chapel Hill, North Carolina, where I live. I'm always at odds with my surroundings. I haven't figured out how I managed to do that. But, I at one time would call myself more of just a straight liberal, and now I can't talk to my neighbors. They walk by and I see them glaring at my WikiLeaks stickers on my car.
They must think you're a Russian agent.
Oh, I'm sure
Yeah.
they do. Yeah. So anyway, I realize sometimes, that most of the general public is still just watching corporate news. And but you're right, on Trump's camp, everything that's happened with the Mueller report and this nonsense. I mean, they are just when he says fake news, he's right. I mean,
he is right. He's been right. He might have been right for different reasons at the beginning. Like they weren't covering him. Are you kidding? Donald Trump got billions of dollars in publicity, and he knew the more he said to them, "Hey, you guys are fake news," the more they get their dander up and go out there and film whatever he's saying, and all of that news the next day, at least got on all the networks. What does it do for us, though? You know what I mean? In the long run, all of the people who see the political process as the only means to change, minus going, doing something that's not political, which, that's what, third world nations do. We don't do that here in the United States. We're mostly peaceful. We mostly are trying to live with our neighbors, as you say, and try to converse and try to understand each other. So we have no other recourse other than the ballot box. But you have to understand the issues in order to go to the box and make the right choice.
Not only that, but we really do have a crisis with, I don't know how much you've dug into things about the voting machines, but I mean, it's proprietary software. The companies don't have to share what's going on, and we're completely in the dark. So that
did Apple design it?
Yeah, right. I mean, and then there are these closed door meetings between DHS and there's a committee that was formed, DHS and Dominion Voting and ES&S. But it's all, we can't know what's going on in there. So, I mean, how do you trust that? And so, the public, rightfully so, doesn't trust the election. So that's a huge problem, too.
Well, again, not to bring Tulsi in, but,
we should.
She does have an idea which apparently hasn't really been met with a whole lot of enthusiasm, and that is basically having a paper ballot as a way to an audit trail to back up your vote.
Right, as a backup. So I'm not going to get too heavily into that. I've been had my head down in election integrity for about a year, and it is dizzying and dry and boring, and to try to learn everything about the machines and how it all works. So I will just say this: her bill, and there are so many that are named similarly. You wonder if that's by design to confuse people, but I think hers is Secure America's Elections.
It's something. It says securing. I think.
But there's another one, and I apologize for not having it in front of me. But there's another one that sounds almost the same. It's like Secure Election, America's Election. I don't know. Anyway, hers is the best, but it still doesn't go far enough because what you have, it's a paper ballot backup, but you still don't have. Things can be altered at the central tabulator, and so if you don't. There's a guy named John Papa, I'll link this somewhere, that came up with a system where you have not only a voter verified paper ballot, but you have the voter verify the ballot image at the time, link that together, and then you make those ballot images public so that, and you would have to have it in a way that only the voter would be able to recognize that was their ballot, because you've got to protect the voters.
Almost like an encryption of some kind.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, that's a good
idea.
But
then other organizations could then tally up the ballot images. But right now you've got the system where a lot of places aren't even saving any ballot images. And so your vote just goes into this black box, as they say, and you have no idea. But anyway, so
you've got some lady in Broward County taking all the boxes and driving away with.
Yes, right. I was right there in the middle of that. I actually talked to Brenda Snipes twice. I can't believe. Yeah, I got it on live stream. She was answering questions, but not really answering them. She was kind of wandering the halls, and she basically told me she had no idea why people were blocked from seeing what was going on and stuff like that. Yeah. But anyway, that's a big topic and very confusing. And yes, Tulsi's bill does go further than the rest, and nobody seems to be signing on with her about that. But it still leaves a big hole there and doesn't fix the problem.
Well, I wonder if they just want this Russian collusion thing to use again to, depending on what happens, there's a crazy outcome that they don't believe should be, or an outcome that we like. And they can say, well, how can you trust these votes? And it's really, we're becoming very banana republic. I mean, we can't have a clean election. If you can't have a clean election, you can't trust, the entire process.
Right. Now, would you say your viewers, you've got how many subscribers do you have now?
Gosh, let me get out of this screen for a second here.
2,000 or something? Or?
It's 2,822 right now.
I know. I remember you were saying you couldn't believe how quickly it was.
It's mind blowing. It really
I don't think so at all. I think you are hitting right in that spot. It's the populist, it's that crossover, and you're speaking to regular people, I think. But do you know, have you gotten a sense of your viewership? Do you think it does lean more progressive because it's named Save America Vote Tulsi, or do you think you have people that had voted for Trump, or it's just kind of a mix?
It's probably more people that are progressive, I would say. Although I do get some comments from the occasional sort of apolitical people who are, I think, trying to shed labels at this point. And I really like that personally.
Me too.
I get a lot of, I'm fiercely independent. I'm kind of progressive. Occasionally I get, and it's kind of like me, they'll say, I'm kind of like you on this one issue over here, kind of like a wedge issue or something you're not willing to let go of. And I've done a couple of videos on my particular issue. And I did get some blowback for that, but it was just comments. And I said, look, I'm not there with you on that issue. But, when it comes to some pretty big ticket issues, I'm there with you.
Right. And why can't we do that? It's like there are going to be some things we are just not going to see eye to eye on.
Right.
But there's so many that we do, why can't we, excuse me, like candidates with a contract, it's about getting money out of politics, and we can all agree on that.
Everybody agrees. Well,
not everybody.
We should just say the corporate Democrats and the corporate Republicans do not agree.
Right. And then there's the wing of the so-called sort of right that is, Rand Paul against military interventions and all of that.
And and actually obeying the Constitution when it comes to declaring a war. You've got guys like Mike Lee, who's they all go around saying we're the true constitutional conservatives, and some of them do occasionally. I think Bernie Sanders recently voted with Mike Lee on a bill or a resolution, something to kind of say, hey, next time we declare war, it's our job. It's what we're supposed to be doing. So you do get you can get some strange bedfellows working together.
Right.
And that's a good thing. See, but the media won't ever spin it that way. They'll find a tribal angle on it that, Mike Lee is, he's anti-gay. So, you can't vote with him. See, this is where we're at today.
Right. Exactly. I have a perfect example of something I witnessed early on in doing this, and it was I saw it in a chat. I'm not going to name names, but I will say it was about, or name names of the group, but it was about the writer Caitlin Johnstone. I don't know if you know who she is. She's in Australia, progressive writer, was a Bernie Sanders supporter. She's really doesn't hold back in skewering identity politics and all that. Well, she made a statement, and I think maybe it wasn't the best choice of a person, but she said we need to sort of to fight the deep state and the media propaganda and all that, align with people on the right. And she said Mike Cernovich. Now, I don't know that much about him, but a little bit I know. He's kind of a, I don't know, divisive figure, I guess. So it wasn't maybe it wasn't the best choice, but boy, did they jump on her for a solid month. Wow. And I will tell you, it was mostly progressive women that were tearing her to shreds. It started out about her writing, and then it devolved into her hair, her makeup. And they're the ones screaming misogyny all the time. Yet they were doing that to her, and I just thought, wow, this is, you know.
And this is where we're at.
Yeah.
This is where you and I sit in 2019, where I sent out a tweet. I don't know if you saw the tweet about Jill Stein.
Yes.
Where I said, wouldn't it be cool?
I retweeted it.
Jill Stein was trending instead of Dr. Jill Biden.
Right.
It's just like, you're a Russian troll. And then like the profanity and I'm going, what? What do you people? And people are still angry. They really believe Jill Stein helped, Hillary Clinton lose. And that's just preposterous. Hillary Clinton ran the worst candidacy of my lifetime. And it wasn't that Trump was so brilliant. That's Hillary, like Jimmy Dore says, it'd be nice, go to Wisconsin, go to Michigan, and you might have won the election, So,
well, I doubt that, but
you're probably right. But you gotta campaign in order to win, you would think.
I think people already had such a negative view of her, and rightfully so, that I don't know that it would have helped. But it is a good point. Yeah, when I hear people say, and they truly believe, they've been fed this lie, but they truly believe that it was because of WikiLeaks. I mean, I know few people that kind of sent them over the edge into, okay, I'm not going to fall in line and vote Democrat. I'm sure there are those people out there, but I think for the most part, it had nothing to do with any of it. I mean, people already if they didn't want to vote for Hillary, they didn't want to vote for Hillary. And, as we talked about Thomas Frank's book, Listen Liberal, he hits the nail on the head with, like, the reason we have Trump is because of 30 years of all these neoliberal policies and the Democratic Party completely turning their back on working people. I mean, it's really simple. So when you hear people, Putin,
know where to go. That's the thing. And one of the things I might want to do a video if, things happen down the road. I'm not sure, but, I thought to myself one day, I have nowhere else to go. This is why I'm over where I am now. Because Trump said he'd do this. He's not doing it.
Right.
The neo-libs and neo-cons don't do it. So it's Bernie and Tulsi time.
It is. Now, let's get into that, because I want to say, I was going to start off with this. I just want to honestly praise you and thank you for what you're doing and just being real. Here you are with your channel called Save America, Vote Tulsi Gabbard. Right. And you're willing to speak about what she's up against running as a Democrat. And I have to say, and I'm not going to call out names here, but I've been getting a lot of heat back.
I might call out names.
Okay, well,
Go ahead,
you can. I've been getting a lot of heat. I mean, from the people that are supposedly the most progressive, were Dem exit, when I start talking about, but she's running as a Democrat. Look at the rules, look at the pledge she signed. How is she going to beat that? And most of independent media right now, I don't know if some of it is purposeful or not, but they're now operating as PR for Tulsi Gabbard's campaign.
Yeah.
And I have a problem with that. If they want to practice journalism, they need to be looking into these pledges.
I think I know a couple. I'm not going to name the names. I do respect these people, and I'm kind of new at this, so I don't want to, burn bridges and do a video saying.
Right. No, and I'm not out to do that, but I just want to see them ask her these questions.
But you've raised this issue on Twitter a few times, and I've noticed there have been some crickets, pretty much. There haven't been a lot of engagements. No. And I did do a video saying it would be nice if someone would ask her this question. Right. And I haven't heard anybody ask the question. I've heard a lot of people speculate. One of her biggest supporters on Twitter, who I won't mention her name, has said, to me, well, I think that Tulsi she won't support neocon or neolib. And I said, okay, but, did she have to sign a pledge? Because here's Bernie's signature on this pledge. And I think if you run, again, as Jill Stein, and I keep using this quote, it's really tough to start a revolution in a counter-revolutionary party.
Exactly.
And Trump, if you remember, I remember during the Republican primaries, he's like, everybody's saying, just run it. And he was doing it, I don't know, he's goading people and saying, I might run as an independent. I don't need you guys. I might just run as an independent. You know, if it gets too tough. And he strung everybody along, and then finally he signed the pledge. And everybody's like, wow, I can't believe he signed the pledge. So if my idea of Bernie and Tulsi running, you know, as an independent actually, you know, happened, they'd be breaking these pledges. And I'm probably thinking Tulsi signed something.
Well,
you know?
I think, from what I understand, it's not optional. She had to have signed it, or she wouldn't be running as a Democrat in the presidential primary. So what I noticed on Twitter when I post this is that there's confusion now, and that I also wonder if it wasn't by design, but is there's the DNC pledge, and then there's this organization Indivisible, which is very much an Any Blue Will Do group, and they have a separate pledge. Now that pledge, in very plain language, states, I'll support whoever the nominee is, and basically I'll play nice, like we all get a trophy, and I'm not going to actually compete or say anything bad about the other candidates, and I'll just fall in line, and So that's the Indivisible pledge, which Bernie signed.
Yes.
And in a way, I mean, at least he's being honest with his supporters versus last time where he's, you know, we're going to take it all the way to the convention. And I will never will I forget, I was in Philly for DNC, the convention, and I saw Bernie delegates in the bathroom bawling, just crying. Like, I've given a year of my life to this. I came all the way across the country. I hitched a ride. I don't have money. I believed in this, and he's just bailing, you know, and telling us to support Hillary. So to me, you can say you're going into this. It's one thing for your supporters to know where you stand on that, and another for them to not know. And I think that's misleading, is all.
Agreed. And, you know, I think the most of Tulsi, I think she's the best candidate for this. But in the end, you know, if she betrays that in a way at the end and says, well, you know, Joe Biden is the nominee. I know that's a horrible thing to say out loud, but say he's the nominee. And Bernie has already said publicly at a rally that, well, if it's me or Joe or me, that's okay. And a lot of those progressive media types were doing videos left and right about that statement, but maybe not enough of them.
Right.
However, that was pretty interesting that he would just get out there and very casually say, you know, hey, you know, we're two old guys. Whoever wins, you know, and I'll support him if he wins. And I'm telling you, this is why I do these videos where I say, we can't keep doing this. Every 4 years we do this. No,
we can't.
And okay, so there's got to be another way. Like I say, if you can't go through, you got to go around.
Yeah, why do we keep playing this game? Why do we keep participating in this? I mean, the DNC is it's a business. They're raking in, the amount of money they're raking in is sickening. And I actually, just last night, we didn't live stream it because I kind of figured we'd get talking a long time. So I talked with the one of the attorneys for the DNC fraud lawsuit, Elizabeth Beck.
Yeah.
And so that case was dismissed. Oh, hang on. I'm going to grab something real fast.
It's okay. I'll keep talking while you're grabbing.
Okay, I'm back.
Real professional.
We're sorry. That was really.
I was going to reach for listen liberal because it's within distance.
Sorry. I don't want to miss. Yeah.
My son just came home at the very moment that you did that, so I was like,
oh, okay. Sorry about that. Okay, so basically the judge said they did believe that the DNC was biased against Bernie, but nothing they could do about it legally. Even if the DNC charter claims that the organization is neutral, there's no promise of the neutrality. It's not legally binding. Okay? And this was the best part. Let's see. The DNC violation of its own charter doesn't constitute fraud because the people donating to Bernie Sanders didn't specifically base their decision to donate on the promise of neutrality.
Wow.
Yeah.
That just sounds so sketchy. It's just
right.
It's like making up rules as we go along. I'm sorry.
So my question to the attorney was, I just thought of this like, okay, what if you you crowdfunded something? I'm going to build this product, right? And you have people, if you just take this and put it into like consumer fraud thing, and you raised all this money for something, and then you said, no, I'm going to just build this other thing over here. I mean, how does that?
You'd be really angry, and you should be. And
right.
I know. And people get emotionally invested in political campaigns because they think, well, this campaign is going to change the world.
Right.
I'm part of this, and then you just pull the rug right out, and the whole thing was a facade, and it was a joke because, again, you ran within this structure where it's corrupt. And Jimmy Dore is right, and there are a lot of people who speak on this who basically say, you need a third one.
Yeah, but I haven't heard.
Corrupt too. But,
correct me if I'm wrong, but I haven't heard. I love Jimmy Dore. He's one of my favorites. I mean, but I haven't heard him ask Tulsi Gabbard these questions either. And I want to be really clear to anybody that might be watching and think I am in no way anti-Tulsi Gabbard. I've been a fan of hers for quite a long time. And in fact, when she stepped down as co-chair from the DNC, I pulled my daughters in the room and said, look, this is integrity. Look at what she did. Yep. Yep. And my older daughter said, she's the real life Wonder Woman. And so I thought that was really cool. But the thing is, if she's not, it's not lying, but it's also not being perfectly honest with your supporters either. There's the recent video that went viral where the woman, I think she was from Afghanistan.
Yes. Yeah.
Asked her, and Tulsi gives some great answers, and she even says, like, what good does it do if we elect another, I'm paraphrasing, another neoliberal establishment candidate to be, if that's what beats Trump, what difference does that really make? Which, very true, and that resonated with the crowd. But she didn't really answer the woman's question. How are you going to fight your own party? And she gave nice things to say about, fight hate with love and peace and but the way I feel about it is we've been here before. Obama told us everything we wanted to hear at the time.
True.
Bernie told us everything we wanted to hear at the time.
Very true.
The proof is in their actions and what, if they're signing. She signed this pledge, and I just want to, so we've got Bernie Sanders. I could do a screen share for a sec. Well, never mind. It's too small. We'll post it. It's really too small.
I did see his signature on the document that he posted on Twitter.
And so Tulsi should, my understanding is, yes, she absolutely signed this. She had to, or she couldn't have been running.
Right.
But she didn't sign the indivisible pledge, and I don't expect that she would.
No.
That's, voluntary. But the wording of this this DNC pledge is, let's see, I acknowledge that the national chairperson of the Democratic National Committee is authorized to determine whether a presidential candidate has established substantial support for their nomination as the Democratic candidate, is a bona fide Democrat whose record of public service, blah, 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 and, accomplishments, public writings, and or public statements affirmatively demonstrate that the candidate is faithful to the interests, welfare, and success of the Democratic Party of the U.S. and will participate in the convention in good faith.
Yeah. The whole thing, that means it sounds very, it's disheartening because that both of these parties are corrupt, and they're wanting loyalty in the face of
and money.
Doing this, and money, doing the same thing over and over again. We have our Trump puppet now, we want to have our Biden puppet, substitute. I know I'm throwing his name out there. Could be Beto. It could be Pete from Mayor Pete, who was the darling of the month last month. But if one of those guys gets in, you've got to show up at the convention and be really happy about it, and go out there and tell everybody to vote for this person. And I'm kind of done with that.
Yeah.
I'm done with it.
And I've heard some of my progressive, like I said, the strongest progressive Dem exit people, that voted for Jill Stein, they're saying, well, she's got to play by the rules and all this. And people can leave and, choose to vote third party like we did. Yeah, but there are a lot of people that are not understanding that. They're not, they're confused. They're, on Twitter they said, but Tulsi didn't sign the pledge, and they're confusing it with the indivisible pledge. Yeah. And I just think she owes it to her supporters to say, look, I had to sign this, and I will end up, I'm going to fight everything I can, but if I don't win, I'm going to be telling, I'm going to be backing Beto O'Rourke or whoever. And how are people going to take that?
Yeah. See, at that point, that's when you lose faith. You just say to yourself, I can't do this. Because people, they're like, you build them up. You build them. I've been building her up. This is what the channel is about. And I get a lot of blowback when I'm not doing these fluffy videos about how Tulsi did something fantastic today. Well, I told you about that in the last video. This video, I'm going to tell you now what she's up against as far as what the system is capable of doing to her in her campaign. Well, Dave, you need to be more optimistic.
I saw some of the comments. It was,
You need, okay, but I'm a realist. I'm not here playing whack-a-mole with presidential candidates. Well, Trump didn't work, so now I'm going over to Tulsi. If Tulsi doesn't work, I'm just going to go back to Trump. I'm not, by the way, full disclosure, I'm not going back to Trump if Tulsi is not the nominee or Bernie's not the nominee. I'm not going back. I know I've had comments from people who say, I like Tulsi so much, I'd vote for her, but if she doesn't get the nomination, I'm going back to Trump. So that's what we're up against. We've got a really high-quality candidate. The DNC doesn't see this because their tribal thing. They're into who's the next monarch, who's the next queen, who can we anoint and get them to the pole position to take on, the other guy who's in their pole position. And it's very much like, Game of Thrones, whatever analogy you want to use. We're all consuming this day after day. And again, not to say you're better, I'm better. The fact that we dig in a little bit, we understand that free speech is under assault. We understand that it does matter that Julian Assange, if he's extricated and he's tried here for really what? The fact that Chelsea Manning did the hacking and he encouraged her to hack or something.
Right. That's
the charges are flimsy, and a lot of people are just going to pay it no mind.
Right, but they'll probably tack on more charges. If
they've got it in the Trump-Russia collusion thing that just goes on and on, and all the resistance people. These are some, by the way, the resistance people have to be some of the worst people. And I'm sorry, I don't know anybody by name.
No, I agree with you.
As a group, what are they resisting? Trump has been elected. What you should be doing is getting busy locally, nationally, wherever you live. If you don't like the policies, if you don't like what's happening, get busy and get some people elected.
I think they are worse than anything I ever encountered during the Bush years, from the right. And when you would attempt to talk to, I would put it this way, Fox News viewers back then. But, the rest of the media has taken that same formula. And honestly, I guess I'm like a fan of Tucker Carlson, but he's had a couple of segments that, wow, he was doing a better job than anybody on CNN or MSNBC.
So, Tucker is definitely an interesting character. I liked him when I was pro-Trump.
He's independent, isn't he?
I think he's more independent-minded than anybody, I think, on TV. I mean, when you look at what you just don't know what is going to set him off, which is funny. He might have somebody from the right who will set him off, and he might have somebody from the left who, I think he had Glenn Greenwald on, and it was like an awesome interview.
Well, it's hard. You can't beat Glenn Greenwald. I mean,
No, but I mean, it was like the meeting of the minds, and it was an intelligent conversation, and you left thinking to yourself, wow, even if you didn't share Glenn's perspective on everything, you got to hear Glenn. And Tucker gave him a place to talk. Same with Tulsi, obviously. The first interview where Tulsi Gabbard wasn't accosted, no pun intended for Jim Acosta, but it was with Tucker. I mean, that interview, I sat there and said, yep, this is great. And there was no, even when she went on with TYT, I don't know if you saw that.
I don't watch that anymore.
It's as if we're going to just go and uncover every little pebble of your past to prove that you're really not a progressive.
Oh, right.
Not progressive enough. And, you had these stances on this issue, and then you changed. I guess none of us, because that would impugn me, because none of us can change our spots. We have to just...
Right. No, TYT, I think, lost a whole lot of viewers. Again, when Bernie decided to back Hillary, and then TYT had been doing a pretty good job covering everything, but they just switched completely. In a day, it became all anti-Trump stories. Yeah. They stopped covering. They didn't cover the Jill Stein's campaign or anything, and they just sort of turned on. So I don't even watch it anymore.
Yeah. No, I never watched it, but people, when I first kind of started doing the videos and started to talk with others, and they're like, "Oh, check out TYT." I'm like, no, I mean, I didn't. The people on the right obviously can't stand TYT, and I guess I had that perception of them. Yeah. And then I saw what they were doing with Tulsi, and they play gotcha, and then they promote people who are just, I don't know. I could see them, being all excited if Pete Buttigieg there got the nomination. They would probably go wall to wall how great Mayor Pete is.
Well, they're pretty much, they've become MS. What do people call it? DNC light, basically.
Yeah, light. Yeah, and you're right. And I think more Americans need to get off of those platforms, if you want to call them that, whatever, those television stations, and move to more independent. But like I've said in a couple of videos, grandma down the street, she's not streaming YouTube videos.
No, and. Yeah, I mean, that's the problem. It's the failure of journalism right now that we're dealing with. Yes. I mean, we don't have any, the corporate news is not doing it. I think the Real News Network does a really good job.
Yeah, I've seen some of their stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, and really, over the past couple of years, independent media on YouTube, I mean, several people have done fantastic. I mean, God, Jimmy Dore's practiced journalism, better than...
What's great about Jimmy is, because this is my more sarcastic and comedic side. I'm not a comedian or anything, but I enjoy kind of the one-liners and the zingers. And then he's got the panel over, and they're all funny. And by the way, they've all got channels. I think except for Stephanie Steph doesn't have a channel.
I don't
think
so.
Graham has a channel right now, and it's great. I've watched some videos on there.
Ron Pacone.
Yeah, he's got. I've seen him on Twitter as well, and it gives you. You got guys like Nico House, and I'm a big Kim Iverson fan because I'm into presentation.
I just started watching a couple of hers. She's fantastic. Yeah,
her presentation is really like network TV quality.
I know. But she has been in. I didn't realize she has been in radio for a while before. But you can tell.
Me and her have some of that in common. I think she actually had more of a real career, whereas I dabbled in it for a few years. But she's great, and there are other people. Kyle Kalinske.
Absolutely.
You catch him during a rant, and you just don't have the kids in the room. Half of these guys, that's my problem, because I have a 5-year-old who's down for his nap right now, and he will hear, "Daddy, they just said another bad word." I'm like, yeah, they did. So, but this is where we're at. We've got to get information, and the information needs to be from people who aren't filtered.
Right.
And sometimes that means that they're going to be a little more colorful with their language and so forth. But I like the passion. You know what I mean? I like to hear passionate points of view. Even if I don't agree with it, make your argument and I'll listen to it. And maybe throw in a little entertainment in there. The news media, I don't know how people watch CNN. I mean, that's just...
I don't know. Well, I think we can thank Jon Stewart for starting all of this, really. And previously, the Colbert Report, though I can't stomach 5 seconds of Stephen Colbert.
What happened to that guy? Wow.
I don't know.
Oh, my goodness. I mean, Tulsi was on with him, too. And it was like, so I hear Stephen Bannon and David Duke are big fans of yours. What?
Yeah.
What? I mean, you can go on a social media platform and find some racist or whatever who likes somebody, and you're gonna throw guilt by association at you. I mean, that's just...
Isn't it interesting when how Jon Stewart retired early, right before? He did this great interview. I think it was with, is it Charlie Rose? I think it was. Where he basically was saying, like, kind of what we're talking about the populist movement, the backlash, the anti-establishment vote. And he's like, I know, I have neighbors that voted for Trump. They're not racist. They're worried about their insurance premiums. Yeah. I mean, it was, and I don't know, just my guess from watching him for many years, is that I think that he saw it coming and he knew he was not going to be able to do what Stephen Colbert has done, or what's his name, the Trevor Noah, or any of them. That he knew he wasn't going to be able to play that game. It's just my theory.
Well, and I think you're right. I think that book that you recommended to me, Listen Liberal, where they talk extensively about the Clinton years, how that was basically how we're going to cater to the university class. And not only that, but you have to go to these colleges and you have to meet it's almost as if it was a new form of republicanism. Our brand of Republican.
It's elitism.
Where you believed in maybe some of these social issues, but more importantly on economic issues, we're really kind of the same coin. We're just a different side, and it's our side versus their side. And again, we go back to that theme of where else do we have to go? Where can we go? That's why Jill Stein sounds very reasonable to me now. If you had told me about Jill Stein 10 years ago, some radical leftist and she's got all these crazy ideas about socialism and this is the other thing.
Or anti-vaccine, which she is not anti-vaccine. She's having the companies that make the vaccines being on the board of deciding who all, what's required.
That's just them getting, again, their hands into more money.
And you mentioned she was on Democracy Now! Quite a number of times, but the few times she was on mainstream media, I know there was one where they just they edited her video to literally make her sound like she said stuff she didn't say. I mean, it was just crazy. So they do that. But so I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about, like, obviously you're going to support Tulsi, and I think we should do that realistically and pay attention to the DNC rules and what we're up against. But if it does come down to, maybe you'd become just Save America. Like third party,
Well, I have a title. And I might as well throw it out there now. But I'm thinking of calling the page Third Rail.
Third what?
Third Rail. Because,
Third Rail.
Yeah.
Okay.
One of the ideas I have.
I like that.
Remember the old third rail of politics used to be you can't mess with Social Security or Medicare. Couldn't touch those. The new third rail seems to be talking about war and how you don't want more regime change or just useless wars or interventions. And I think you could construe what your third rail is today but I think I represent kind of I've been on the left rail, I've been on the right rail. I'm somewhere else.
Yep.
I'm not like you and I have talked, and I've said, well, yeah, I'm comfortable with these progressive things, but I'm not comfortable with this language.
Right.
I'm not comfortable with all the time insinuating that I need to be more careful with, like I told you about the America First thing. I didn't give that a second thought.
Right.
That technically wasn't Trump's slogan. It was "Make America Great Again," but during some of the rallies, he started saying "America First."
Oh,
so I'm
okay.
thinking, so if America First has been co-opted by a guy, the orange guy that you hate, now I can't say it for myself.
Wow.
We're in a really bad place,
right,
when we can't communicate logic, and
well,
when we associate words with. See, this person, the way they said it to me was, "You don't understand how I take that."
Right.
And maybe he's right. I don't, but I wasn't intending to throw that out there to hurt his feelings or to make him feel as though I was a colonialist or throw out your you know what I mean? I'm just some guy here in Florida who makes videos, and I try to talk from the heart, and I tell you what I believe, and you don't have to agree. It's like everything else in the world, and when I make sense, people congratulate me, but who knows if I'm even making sense. I know I'm running out of political options, and I think there are a lot of, the other title I had would be the political refugee.
Okay. I like third rail better.
Yeah, I think third rail is good, but the political refugee shows them, drifting around.
Right.
Find a home. Nobody will take me. The Democrats will take me.
I think that you do represent a huge chunk of people. I mean, over half the country doesn't even vote.
Right.
And those people probably sit somewhere where you and I do, really, if you sat down and talked to them about it. But unfortunately, people either don't have the attention span, or maybe they're working 3 jobs, or they need a 30-minute news segment at the end of the day to just tell them the truth, not all this nonsense.
Right.
But what happens, I think, is they just end up, and the media knows this, they just end up latching on to buzzwords and, like you said, of being, then they take offense at "Make America," or what did you say, "America First"?
America First.
Yeah. So do you know the guy Frank Luntz? Does that sound familiar?
Yes. Yeah.
And he would do those focus groups, but he talks a lot about that, how language really it's how you frame things, it's how you word it. And George Lakoff too, he wrote a good book about that. But what do we do going forward if there is a third rail? Seems to me like, okay, we're having this response to Tulsi Gabbard.
Right.
We get too stuck on a personality, I think, still.
Yeah.
But obviously what she's saying, her platform, things she's standing up for, is resonating with people across, all walks of the political life. So why don't we, the people, say, hey, this is what we want, and make the candidates come to that. And so that's kind of been my thinking with the candidate contracts, was that I tried to ignore the labels of whether they were running as Dem or Independent or Green, and just focus on their issues. And that was kind of my thinking with that. But I think you've got to, if you had all those candidates kind of come together as a coalition, and also they need to be for election integrity. That's really important, because we're up against that. But maybe there's something going forward.
Draft. You have a draft. You draft somebody. In other words, you all come together, people who are like-minded, and it would have to be some type of independent new thing. And then you'd have to work on ballot access.
Right.
That's a big project.
Right. It is, definitely. So on Tuesday, I wanted to mention, you all right?
I'm still under the weather.
So on Tuesday, I will be talking with Nick Brana, who started Movement for People's Party. Well, he started the Draft Bernie, and now Movement for People's Party. And so Nick Brana, a Green Party candidate, Rodolfo Cortez, and Sean Griffiths, the two of them have written some really good articles in Independent Voter Network. about the DNC rules, about what they're up against. Like, one of the most shocking things to me was learning, the reason they have so many candidates in the race. Did you read this?
That I didn't read it, but
they're trying to keep it so no one candidate can get to over 50%. Oh, my internet is doing something funny here. Did I lose you? We froze for a second. Oh, okay. I don't know. Yep. It froze.
We're back.
We're back. Anyway, so I'll put some links to that too, but I've been tweeting it a lot, those articles from Independent Voter Network. But I'm going to have the three of them on to talk about those DNC rules and really what Tulsi and Bernie and any candidate running as a Democrat are up against. So we'll be going over that. But Movement for a People's Party, there's a great, they're trying, but I've told Nick this in private, and I'll say it online. I love what they're doing, but I think that their rhetoric is too leftist, and I'm kind of alone in that when I've gone to things like the Left Forum. Part of me, I just want to stand up and say, you guys do remember Trump won, right? Like, I feel sometimes like it's its own bubble, and I don't want to knock on the People's Party. I know people working in that, and they're really doing good stuff, but I think some of it's just maybe the language needs to be changed a little bit, and we need to reach out to the voters like yourself.
Yes.
That voted for Trump.
That you make such a good point, because at times doing this, I felt a little, like I shouldn't be here. Like you're not really part of our club. We're all good progressives, and we have good progressive channels, and you come over here from the right, you're telling everybody that you're, maybe you're changed a little bit and so forth, but we don't really have much use for you because you're not authentic. You're not like one of us.
Just
and I'm thinking to myself, well, that's not really a good long-term strategy.
No, it's not.
Because American elections are always about persuading people to your point of view, right?
Right.
So if you're just saying like Hillary Clinton did that, these people are just deplorable.
Basket of deplorables, yeah.
Yeah, you're a basket, right? And what do those people do? They wore that as a badge of honor. She called us that name, and that became, hashtag, a meme. It went viral, and people don't realize that this, if you're not going to work to get my vote, I'm not going to give you my vote. So if that means you maybe change up the language to sound like, hey, we're for like the truck driver down the street would be interested in your campaign, and not just somebody who sips on latte and sits at Starbucks all day and scrolls through their laptop, and you know what I mean?
Right. Well,
there's got to be like, you've got in the book that you told me about, that pretty much makes the case that middle America is always left behind.
Yeah.
Always used to be, because both parties have said we want the corporate class, we want the professional class, and they look down upon anybody else who drives the old station wagon, who doesn't eat where you eat, or doesn't shop at Whole Foods, or doesn't make the same kinds of choices that you make.
I live with those people around here, and I'm actually no longer friends with one of them, this liberal attorney friend of mine that I had it out with. She wanted to pull me into an argument with her Trumpian neighbors, and I said, well, you're not going to like what I have to say. And I tried to talk to her about, I don't like to fly, so I would drive all the time back home to Detroit. And, you go through some really backwards parts of West Virginia, Eastern Ohio, and there's a lot of poverty there. And I was talking about this with her, and she said, I know, it's just scary. And I thought to myself, when people say those are the flyover states, people like this friend of mine have never even seen it, much less do they have any concept of what it's like to live like that. And so there is this elite kind of just snobbery, and they would look down on the, poor white people. Well, I mean, they're suffering just as much as inner city, wherever. So,
Right.
and there's just this disdain for those people. And anyway, but I would love sometime to, maybe we could do another segment. We don't want to go on too long here, but
we've been on for over an hour. I think,
yeah. So maybe another time, though, I would love to take, for example, like the People's Party platform, and maybe, have you looked at it?
No, you'll have to send me a link.
Okay, I'll send you.
I really think that's a great name for a political party. I was thinking the People's Party
Right.
would be a good, because as much, and you and I have already talked about the Green Party, there are a lot of great people obviously working within the Green Party.
Right.
I think, again, calling the party green is focus. It's too narrowly focused in saying we're green, we're solar power, we're okay. Those are all good things, but we need a party for all people.
Right.
And I think to be more specific, or to be more general, is going to be more productive. And I think, right. Yeah, I'd like to see them.
Or even maybe we do away with parties and we just have straight, voting for the candidates.
Obviously, that's a good idea.
Take the money out. But
I think the branding issue is one thing that, again, if you're marketing yourself as, what are you? Well, you could say I'm just
independent.
Dave, I'm running. Or, I'm an independent. I've been an independent most of my adult life. I go into the parties to be able to vote in primaries.
But that's the majority of Americans now are in that category.
Yeah.
So, but I'll send you the link. I'd just love to hear kind of your take on maybe, like I was saying, just the wording of their platform, and that maybe, people on these sort of right-leaning, independent might be for some of these same things, but it's just, it's the way it's worded. So.
Yeah, well, I can tell you want to rewrite some of it, I can tell.
Yeah, well, yeah, I'd like to. But.
And I think in the future, moving forward, regardless of what happens to Tulsi Gabbard, this kind of movement has to keep going.
Yes,
so
absolutely.
This channel will keep going in some other, it'll have a different name, and I've already talked about that. At the beginning, when I heard her, I just said, well, this is what I have to do for now. And, I had Jordan today saying that, hey, it looks like it's, just Bernie and Tulsi, and a lot of people like the idea of them going and doing their own thing, but if they sign pledges and they've got to stick to those pledges.
Well, they could break them, I suppose.
Yeah, they could. I think I don't think they get penalized, or maybe they'll get.
Right.
What are the consequences of breaking the pledge?
Right. Yeah.
So good point.
We'll see what happens.
Yes.
But it was so great to talk to you, Dave, and keep it up. I think your channel is really just kind of hitting those people. Maybe some non-voters, lots of independents, and. Don't be afraid to speak your mind. There are those progressives, or definitely the fake left. I guess we'll say, that are going to attack you, but just keep going.
Well, thanks, Kelley, and thanks for setting this up.
Okay.
Wouldn't be able to do it without you, probably.
Well, there's irony in that because I'm kind of technologically challenged. I had help getting all this set up, but okay. So I'm going to stop the stream. Here we go, and here we go, in here.